Okay, what's your name?
My name is Richard Gurley.
And what's your educational background?
I have an undergraduate degree in marketing and I have an MBA.
Where'd you get them both?
Ohio State University for my undergraduate degree and Lake Erie College for my MBA.
And what's your place of current employment?
Steris Corporation.
And what's your job title?
My current job title is Senior Director of Marketing and OEM Management.
So how did you decide you wanted to go into business?
I knew from an early age that I liked the conceptual problem solving of business. Marketing was attractive to me because it deals with a unique set of problems to overcome, and it's a blend of using creativity, good business concepts, a lot of analytical approaches, and a whole set of things in the business toolbox.
Okay, so what were the steps you took to get to where you are today?
It really involved starting with an original job and using that as a stepping stone for my next job to add experience and skills. And that progression has continued throughout my career. I've always combined that with making sure that I am in constant learning mode. Even to this day, I spend a great deal of time outside the work environment, learning about things germane to my industry, my profession, and marketing in general.
Okay, so did at any time Lake Erie College help you succeed in your career?
Sure, it helped me. I was about 28, 29 years old. I was working for the second company in my career. I was hoping to make a next career step. I knew that having an MBA would be important. I considered a variety of schools. I happened to live in this area, and because my job at the time involved a lot of travel, as has been the case throughout my career, Lake Erie College was a sensible choice for me because it allowed me a degree of flexibility to work on that and still maintain my employment. And but it took a lot of work, and I enjoyed many parts of it.
What was your favorite MBA class?
I think the favorite class I had was with Dr. Al Kalo, and it was a class that dealt with business strategy. Very interactive class. He would bring a lot of real-world examples into the process of education. He was originally trained as an economist, so he brought things from an economic point of view at times, which I enjoyed because I always liked economics. Yet he did a great job of injecting it into business decision making, as economics is fundamental in the foundational study of business. I thought it made a lot of sense. I really enjoyed that class a lot. And there were a lot of good people in my class from a very wide background of companies and skill sets, and I think that added value to the class and to the material itself.
Okay, do you think interning or job shadowing is important?
I think it's fundamentally important, especially in this day and age. It was treated differently when I was young, but these days I think it allows people a real responsibility, a real chance at responsibility to see how things actually work. I wish there would have been more of that when I was younger. One of my favorite books that I read at Ohio State in business school was a book called The Ropes to Skip and the Ropes to Know, and that was like edition number 1 or 2 when I was in school. I think it's on like edition 20, so still used in some business schools. It was a great book because it talked about the ways business actually works. Maybe not the specific subject matter if you're an accountant or you're a financial person or you're an engineer, but it talks about how things actually work, and that is difficult to convey to young people who haven't seen that. But when you intern, you get to do the application of your skills, and you get to see how companies actually work, from the social interactions to the procedural steps to the way decision making occurs, how resource allocation happens. A lot of things that are conceptual in school become very clear when you see it from an intern perspective.
Okay, do you have any advice for professionals who want to move higher up?
Yes. First of all, be willing to extend yourself beyond what you think you're capable of doing on a regular basis. Always be pushing yourself to do more, do better, and have bigger challenges to tackle. So you gotta stress yourself all the time. The second thing is you have to have an attitude of continuous learning on all levels, not just in the subject matter that you deal with, but those around you deal with and the industry you're in. I make it a point every single day to read things germane to STERIS Corporation for the particular areas that I deal with, and I deal heavily with medical devices and surgical applications. So I'll read about a new procedure one evening, and I'll read about a new material that's used in an exotic medical device, and I'll read about a new thought process for the positioning of entry into a different kind of market. So you have to always have these different kind of streams of information coming into you, and you have to want to learn. The third is always offer to try and tackle new things in your current job. Don't just wait to volunteer, but suggest. My computer is full of documents I've written over my career on ideas and concepts. And like a lot of good ideas that come into being, that great idea that finally made it to the finish line had 50 or 100 other ideas that didn't. And so you keep the hopper full. And sometimes those ideas might not pay off right now, but they might have good shelf value and come into play later on. I think that's extremely important. So those are a couple things I think are really important. One of the fundamentally most important things that you have to be if you're in business is you have to be, you can never let down the desire to be competitive. That doesn't mean you need to be a used car salesman, to use that cliche, even though I had a lot of respect for people who are in selling roles, but I'm using it in the colloquial sense of that people don't look highly upon that job and it has a negative connotation. I don't think it has a negative connotation, but for those, you have to think like that and push regularly.
Okay, so what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
I work extensively with medical device manufacturers around the world. I work with them to establish very intricate relationships at a technical, scientific, commercial, and maybe sometimes at a loosely defined level, a social context. We work together to serve the needs of mutual customers we have. They sell things into the hospital, we sell things into the hospital. Our technologies come together. It's very complex how that works. But my responsibilities cover elements of marketing, they cover elements of very scientific things. They cover regulatory and quality system requirements and other facets of that. Today alone, I started my day at 7 a.m. with a conference call with a company in Turkey, and 5 minutes before we started this video, I finished my evening with a very detailed message to a company in Australia that I just got off the phone with. It's not uncommon for me to touch 15 different countries in the scope of a day and cover issues of co-marketing a product in Russia to interoperative neuromonitoring equipment with a company in Israel. So I do a lot. It's difficult to describe to people even inside STERIS what I do. So sometimes when I'm outside of STERIS, I tell people part of my responsibility is to be a friend maker, so to speak. It's a blend of business development and marketing and scientific and the other things that I mentioned.
Okay, so what's the most important skill in your field?
The most important skill in my field is having very in-depth knowledge of the technologies I deal with. That's one. A very solid understanding of business and business decision making is another one. Since I do so much cross cultural work, you have to be very adaptable. Working with people in Korea is different than working with people in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and different than working with people in Oslo, Norway. And both in business practices, customs, cultural differences, and how decision making happens. Those are all things you have to constantly be thinking about and working on. So there's a lot of complexity to it. But I enjoy complexity. I enjoy a degree of ambiguity that comes along with my job. And a lot of my responsibility is up to me to decide what to do and how to do it. So there's nobody really telling me, hey, you need to go do this or do that. I usually have like 2 or 3 high-level objectives for the year that I'm to accomplish, and then I have teams that will work off of my decision-making and actions I take. So I like the complexity of it, and that's probably the thing I enjoy the most.
Okay, and what's the best memory from your professional career this far?
From my entire career, probably the best memory I have is the friendships I've established all over the world. The meetings come and go, particular topics come and go, business opportunities come and go, but people make business happen. And if you really want to make things happen, you have to involve people, and I enjoy that part more than anything else. I was in Saudi Arabia 2 months ago and had an opportunity to work with several hospitals, some of our STERIS people, some of the business partners we work with, and others. And it was a country that I haven't been to, which is unusual. And I walked away from that particular week with the memory that I've made a lot of new friends. And I think about a woman who I was talking to. I gave a presentation for the Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia, which is unusual in itself because the room is segregated with men on one side and women on the other, and the social circumstances are becoming a lot more flexible there. But after the meeting, a woman came up to me like this, and when you can remove the idea that somebody's got all this headgear on, or I don't remember what they call it, but it was like talking to anybody else. She had good questions, good concerns, seeking ideas, and I didn't go on that trip thinking I'm going to establish friendships with people, especially somebody in Saudi Arabia like that, but I did, and I really value that because I can go anywhere in the world, and I have friends. If I need them for anything, I can call them, they're there, and many of them have welcomed me to come and visit on a vacation and take me on a tour and let me learn more about their culture. So working with people is by far the greatest joy I've had, and that's been true in other companies I've worked with as well.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.